So we've partnered with a lot of game developers from across the world, give people an experience they've never had before, because climate games are not something which is as easily available as your Dungeons and Dragons or that's again the famous board games, right? The first one we partnered with was actually a bunch of Swedish researchers who have developed a game called Climate Call. They wanted to try with us. They shipped us a whole bunch, and we've been playing Climate Call. That's been our longest running game in the Climate Party so far, because it is super easy to understand and leaves people with a lot of food for thought, and it gets done with very quickly. And like they got such an amazing response that they actually built an India version for us. And similarly, we've played a lot of strategy board games which has lasted like 2 hours. What this also does is gives all these game developers a good testing ground to test out how their games are doing, because they have the right set of audience.
Welcome back for another episode of the Voice of Generation Climate TVOGC. Today we have with us Sayesha Dogra, the founder of the Climate Party, building a community and ecosystem for people in the climate space to come together and cross-pollinate magic. Sayesha, what a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks, Anirudh, for having me. I think we've been chatting for long about doing something like this. Good to be here.
Yes, we have. In fact, I came for one of your first events about 2 years ago, which happened, I think, in 2023 at the Matrix office in Gurgaon.
Yes, this was probably August 23, if I'm not wrong.
So what was the inception story for the Climate Party? What got you into it? And what is a Seniors? We keep seeing this word everywhere, the Climate Seniors.
I mean, so much so our company is called Climate Seniors Private Limited.
Wow, okay, you put it in the name.
Yeah.
Right.
So even my email ID, as you may have seen, says Climate Seniors, not
Yes.
Climate Party. But anyway, again, thanks for having me here. I'll start with what's the Seniors, and then probably what led to what the Climate Party is today, right? So the word Seniors is a borrowed term from the field of art. An artist called Brian Eno coined this, which really means collective intelligence of the scene. Right? And the whole idea of using this word a lot more often than probably I should is to just emphasize the fact that when we talk about climate, it is not one person's job. It is not one sector's job. A lot of interdisciplinary people need to come together to really formulate solutions which are sustainable and actually address the multi-order problem that climate change is, right? So one solution cannot be led by just a scientist. You need to understand the social aspect of it. You need to understand the environment aspect of it, right? So the whole idea is, how do you get people who are otherwise unlikely to meet each other? Because when we deep in work, we tend to get stuck in silos and not look out. It's just about how life is. It's a continuous, how ideally life should be, a series of zoom ins and zoom outs, where you also get to see what's the bigger picture you're really solving for. So that's largely the idea. How do you make people who are working on different solutions, different disciplines, come together in one place physically, right? And what led to the Climate Party, right? So I happened to be on an expedition to Antarctica in 2022, my bad. Which I think I'll cut the long story short. What really happened was, at that point in time, I was working in consumer tech in Dubai. And when I came back, I think I just felt a large void and a big question. I put a big question to myself as to what am I doing? Right? So, and ironically, I was building quick commerce back then, right? So the question that really came to me was, since I'd spent half a month in Antarctica seeing climate change personally, firsthand, it just made me think that there are real problems to solve out there. Whereas I am trying to solve something which is not even a problem, right? So that is where I think it really began. At first, I didn't know what really was happening. but took me a few months to really figure out what was going inside me. And initially, I belittled the whole thought as probably this is just a hangover of my trip to Antarctica. But then the whole mental turmoil kind of continued, started with days, weeks, months, and that's when I knew I'll have to quit because this is not what I'll be able to do for the rest of my life. So yeah, that's where I think the plunge into the world of climate began. I honestly had zero idea what I'd be doing.
Yeah.
I just thought I'll figure it out on the way. And the whole meandering of figuring it out really brought me to a place where uh, the whole endeavor of starting the climate party was really solving a problem for self, right? Where
Scratching your own itch, as they say.
yes, and because again, I came from a world where you throw a stone and you'll find somebody working in consumer tech, right? It's so easy. And for me, having moved back to India, having spent some time working with a fund as a fellow, I did get some exposure to people working in climate. But when I
This
came
was
back,
ACT, right?
yes,
Yeah, ACT grants.
and when I came back to Delhi and I was actually looking for people to understand how could I navigate my path, it was honestly difficult to find the right set of people. And that is where, the idea was, okay, let's just put out a LinkedIn post, ask people working in climate to get together in a community park on a Sunday afternoon in winters. And surprisingly 20 people actually showed up
Yeah.
without knowing who I was, what I was doing, right? And I think that is where the entire journey began, where I went in with a hypothesis and it got validated. My hypothesis being that uh, work in India on climate is happening. And look, I am talking about early 2023, which is 2 years ago, right? A lot of mainstream media wasn't really capturing the essence. I think things have gotten much better now. And at that point in time, I think people coming back to the hypothesis bit, my hypothesis was discovery is a problem. Because when I was looking for platforms to connect with people, I couldn't find any. While I was part of some platforms which are online and largely US focused or Europe focused, there wasn't anything which was focused on India. And that is where I've thought, let's do some experiment. And the one that you came to was one of those early experiments. So thanks for being there. And yeah, and since then, we've come a long, long way.
Yes, yes, you have. And I think you had told me once that, similar to what you're saying now, it's not a supply problem of people working in the space, it's actually a discovery problem.
Yeah.
There are lots and lots of really great people spread out around the country working on climate in some form or the other, right? Either as a designer or as a marketer or as a product builder or journalist or you name it, right? Different professions, people can come from any profession into the space. But I think that feeling of being isolated and solo is very common, and being discovered and then put into a community of like-minded people just
Right.
it allows people to really feel less alone and flourish a
Yeah.
little bit more,
For
right?
sure.
So you discovered that first 20 people who came to your event. What was their reaction? What was the feeling that it drove? Like, what happened after that?
So I think, like I said, where I was very upfront about sharing how I was feeling and how I was feeling lost. And now this was among the 20 people. Again, very interestingly, it was a very interesting mix. So we had some founders, we had some investors, either angel or somebody working with a early stage fund, some students, right? So it was a good like mix of different people. And I saw each of them echoing same problems in terms of not being able to find the right set of investors. If somebody started building, not finding the right set of people for building their teams. And then, of course, customers are always a problem in this space. So, and even to look for B2B partnerships, right? Finding just the right set of people. And I think what I've seen so far, majority of us who are in this space are mission-led founders. We're like not mercenary founders, we're missionary founders, right? So a lot of us are really passionate, about what we do. So we also look for that passion in somebody we would want to work with, right? Things are changing a little for the good, because of course to scale things we need capitalism to come in with abounds. Yeah, so I think it was just about getting that confidence from people that this is not an isolated problem, it's a shared problem. So I think that shared problem is what really led me and kept me at doing these experiments, right? And I think from there on, some people to begin with offered help in giving space for the next events, right? So I mean, this is a very nice anecdote that I just got, I remembered. So Apurv, who's our Delhi lead now, he's been the one person who's been consistently attending all NCR climate parties since the beginning. So much so now he's part of the team, right? And he was the first one to offer his office space for us. I think we did the first few events at his space at Sangam Ventures, which is now Synapses. Right. So one thing led to the other, and then I think it was all about understanding people's pain points. What do they not like? What do they want? And putting it all together. And then, of course, assimilating bits of fun, because that was one thing as an outsider, I was felt is really missing in this scene. Right? Because a lot of doom and gloom, a lot of technical jargon. And then, of course, I figured there would be a lot of people like me who would be daunted. It's a daunting task. And I've had countless conversations with people who've tried to break in and saying that it just feels that the barriers to entry are so high and we have no idea what to do. Right? So, yeah, I think from there on, it was, applying some bits of learning I had in consumer. Again, why I chose to keep offline, why I chose to design it in such a way which is unlike the standard conclaves and summits, right? The need to keep it informal to make it feel more accessible, because in this space, the moment you formalize things, a lot of people anyway hold back, thinking that they don't know enough, right? So it's about creating that, I keep saying the third place of sorts, where it's a place where we know that we can go back to every month looking for new people and catching up with old people whom, they find a connect with, both professionally or maybe personally.
I like that third space. Typically, you associate a third space with first is your home, second is your office, third is maybe your gym or a club.
Yeah.
Wherever you go to play sports or something, right? And here you're making a third space, passion project that can be work related, also to meet new friends.
Yeah.
Because you're right, I think a lot of people in the climate space have become friends along the way.
Oh, I have gained so many friends just being in the climate
Definitely.
space.
I think you share a similar philosophy to us at Climes on climate action should be collective action. If it's solo, solitary, you just feel like you're not making a dent, right? As it is, it's such a vast problem statement. And then to feel like you're doing a little bit and you're doing it all alone, it's very disheartening, right? And the more you feel like, okay, there are others in the same fight, and you can do it collectively, even small impact collectively created really compounds. So I think that part is really cool, and your insight on that is bang on, right? People want collective action. People want to be brought together across different professions and interests. The one common thing that binds them all is climate. That's why we call this generation TVOGC, the voice of generation climate.
But I think just one thing, since you mentioned, right? I think for me, the way I've been seeing it, or also keep pushing people, because a lot of us call it the climate fight. I don't take that view. For me, it's about helping people find opportunity in this change. Again, I personally am not fond of using the word climate warrior, or the moment you make it a fight, I feel you also start feeling a little distant to it, because again, this fight is not really affecting you personally until you're actually on the ground seeing things yourself. So I think, again, maybe call me an optimist. Again, that's been my view. To help people see an opportunity in this space.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So trait number one that's come up is you have to be a missionary to be in this space. Trait number two is you have to be an optimist, right?
No,
Also to
I
lead.
wouldn't say that you need to do this. Again, I'm sure there are, again, it's just been a small little amount of time, right? There's a lot of things which will play out and we'll see. I am totally up for, mercenaries coming in, making things scale, as long as they're in it for the right reasons.
You can have people who have different traits in the space. Yeah, just
I think we need a lot of that. We need a lot of learnings to be brought in from different industries, different disciplines. And again, I am a big believer of magic happening at intersections. And that's
yeah.
what, I keep harping on the fact of, interdisciplinary community.
Yeah. And connecting the dots. I think you've used the right word there to cross-pollination, right? You're cross-pollinating people from different industries, ages, interests into one community. So what has changed between 2023 when you first started this to 2024 to now? Are we moving in the right direction? Are we still stuck where we were 2 years ago? What is your feeling 2 years into building the climate party?
So I think, to be very honest, I had no idea it'll be what it is today. Again, because I honestly just went into action mode without thinking too much. I thought a little about the problem, solving a problem for myself, all of that. And honestly, at that point in time, when I chose to pursue Climate Party full time, this was November. Okay, I should use the date of incorporation of the company, which was November 17, 2023. That is when I really chose to do this full time. And this was purely based on a lot of nudges I got from multiple people in the community, one of them being Rohit Rajput, who's our common connect, right? So,
The creator of LSDs, long story enough.
yes.
Yeah. The
Yes, shout
original
out to
creator.
his LSDs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and honestly, until that point in time, while I was building this community, writing anti-climatic, I was also looking for meaningful opportunities to be part of early teams with people, building early stage startups. I was in conversations with a few until this whole light bulb moment happened, or whatever you may want to call it, and then I chose to kind of just go ahead and pursue this. The only philosophy being, I should not regret not trying later on. So I think I was telling you about this, the whole regret minimization framework, right? So yeah, I think coming back to your question, right? What has changed? We started in Gurgaon. Now we're on to our seventh city. This week we're launching Chennai. So just for the viewers to know, we've created this third place in Delhi, Gurgaon, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Goa, and we're going to Chennai next, which is this week. And the only reason we've chosen to go to so many cities in a short span of time is purely based on the validation we've received and a lot of inbound requests. And I think we see that every time we've gone to a new city, we've never had a problem of really having to push through to get people to sign up. On the contrary, we've had to stop registrations because we couldn't take enough people. But having said that, let's be real. Given we're in India, getting traction in terms of numbers isn't the hard task. It's about how do you make people stick, right? Because
It's
how do you?
retention. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's retention.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it was always about how do you create that healthy mix of people continuing to come back to these climate parties and more people joining in, right? And to be honest, for me, since we're not externally funded, it's purely bootstrapped. The idea from the very beginning was how do you stay intentional with a few things. One is focusing on quality over quantity, because that is the hallmark of any good community, right? When it comes to actually getting jobs done for the community, the help you need, the support you need, the network of network effects that needs to play out, it has to be all high quality, right? Second was staying frugal, no unnecessary kharcha, right? So far we've never invested in any sort of marketing, any Instagram pushes or anything. I don't know if it's the right call or not, to be honest. But so far, I think I don't regret not doing that. Because I think what has happened because of staying that intentional, most of the people who actually discover the climate party is through word of mouth. It is either their friends or colleagues who've been to a climate party in one of the cities, or they've attended a climate party in another city before. They've say, changed jobs, moved places, right? And of course, our usual LinkedIn, Instagram is always there, but this is the major chunk. Interestingly, yesterday I was looking at our signups for Chennai, and I just did a quick math and saw of the total signups we've had so far, about 64% were pure word of mouth, which
Wow.
is insane because this is our
Yeah.
first time in Chennai, but people have heard about us from someone. So that
That's
was
really cool.
like a feel good for me in the moment.
Now, at an event, one of your events, typically what will the mix be? Students versus storytellers slash marketers, designers,
I think,
investors,
yeah, yeah,
founders.
yeah. So
What's the mix?
it's always like a massive mix, to be honest. Uh, so I think uh, the regular people, the founders and investors are always there, right? Because it is their job to be in these places, right? But it's about finding people who are hard to get out in the open, right? To be honest, one of them, that category being journalists, focusing on
Yeah.
putting out right stories. So we've had to do a lot of cold emailing, cold outreaches to kind of get the right people in, help them discover who we are, give them a taste of what the climate party looks like, right? And since then, we've just seen that again, then network effects plays out, and they bring in more people. But to your question, I think it's a massive mix where we have now people who are focusing on content creation for sustainability because they're here to source the right set of stories for their content, right? Which works great for people who kind of get captured in those stories. Similarly, we have a lot of corporates, people working in their either ESG teams, sustainability teams, a lot of MBB folks, a lot of MBB consultants, right? Because from what I'm seeing is a lot of people are also looking to break out of their existing jobs and wanting to start in climate, right?
Wait, is it
Similarly,
typically people escaping the MBB jobs?
no, I'm not sorry. I didn't exactly mean them, but like
That's
overall in
hilarious
general.
because that would be so funny. I think it's true, but
Yeah, yeah, I know. But no, I think most of the folks, when I talk about MBBs, are people working on their, climate strategies and those verticals largely.
not escaping it, but working within them in the climate.
Yeah, I think we need a little more time to see their trajectory. Where were they when they began attending climate parties and where they are now? So, because in just the last 1.5 years, I've seen so many people moving around, so many organizations. So, yeah, it's quite interesting to see. But thankfully, all of them have continued to move in climate and not out of climate.
Not out of climate, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. It's even I've noticed it's typically a one-way in. I haven't seen a reverse. I guess we've
Yeah.
not also had enough time for this sector, this space to
Yeah,
really
yeah,
get into
exactly.
it. Yeah, it's only been
And that's
three,
why I said, like, I
4
think
years.
1.5 years is too less a period anyway, right? So everybody, like, so initially when I came in, I was an outsider, right? And I would see around, I felt I don't know enough, and then there were people around me saying a lot of things, right? And when you don't know enough, you feel, ha, isko pata hoga, they're saying the right thing. But over time, only in hindsight can I say that now I feel they were talking bullshit.
Yeah,
So,
right. Right. There's a lot
yeah.
of people in it. I know a lot of people in it who are jaded, for sure, because everything that could go wrong, macros wise, messaging wise, all is gone wrong. Now it's
Yeah.
like it's only one way back up. So whoever's still in it is just riding along
Yeah, yeah.
for
And
the
I think
journey.
since I was talking about a lot of people coming in
Yeah,
are people who want to do something meaningful, right? Missionary when we talk about. So they've probably thought a lot before making that transition, right? And I would like to believe that a lot of them would want to give it some time
Time, yeah.
for things to play out before they become pessimistic and they're like,
Yeah.
not happening.
What is your time frame, minimum time frame, that you expect someone to give in this to a cause like this? Because you have to have a minimum time commitment you make, right? Going into something like this, it comes with all the risk of a sector still developing.
Look, I can only talk about myself right now because I think things will be very different if somebody were pursuing something deep tech. There we're looking at such large horizons, right? For something to even come to a pilot stage probably needs like a 6-year window, again, depending on what you're building, right? But for me, I think to myself, I'm like at least spend 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? And then see how you're feeling, whether it's, are you doing enough? Are you at least feeling that you're doing enough? Things are going in the right direction. So it's always about doing like a reflection every few months or every time I hit a low. Right, to see if I still should be here, not be here. And I think that's the case with all of us, right?
Yeah,
We see a lot
same.
more lows than we see highs.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
But I think I just to close the loop on your question, which I think I didn't properly answer, was in terms of where it was when we started and where we are. So I think 7 cities, and so far we've engaged with more than 2,500 people in person. We've just done one thing online, which was again because we wanted to create a very a safe space for people to be vulnerable, which was around dealing with climate anxiety, because we were seeing a lot of people bearing the brunt of it and people really were looking for an outlet. So we made an exception and did an online session. But otherwise we've been doing this only offline, and as you know, the whole idea of doing these parties or creating this space is also then to connect people across all the cities where we are through our network, right? So in the network we have more than close to 1,000 people now. Again,
Wow.
we don't push anybody to join the group, whoever wishes.
That's cool. You used the word earlier saying for new people looking to get into the space can be daunting from the outside, right? Seems walled off and daunting. One of the things you're solving is making it more accessible, giving people a
Right.
community and making it far more accessible. Is there any name of a person that comes to mind who actually made that transition into the space because of the accessibility the Climate Party provided? And perhaps, like, what serendipity happened beyond that? Because there's a lot of luck involved too, right? You get into a community like
for
that, you
sure.
meet people, then things happen. So, what story have you like seen from 2023 play out till now of someone?
So I think I have a couple of names in mind, and again, all super young people. So there's this one person who is data scientist, did mathematics honors from one of the Delhi University colleges, and then was looking, and I think he was the one who actually really shared or was quite adamant about this place feels so hard to break into. I don't know where I can fit in, where do my skills fit in, right? And I remember from the very early days he attended a few climate parties, and then he ended up figuring out something in Goa within non-profit, which was around mapping the coral or the coastal ecosystem in some part of Goa, right? And from there on, things happened. Now I think he's working with one of another battery tech companies as leading bits on again data for them. So and again, this is panned out over the course of about, I would say, same 1.5 years or so. So I think
That's
for
incredible.
a lot of people, it's also discovering a lot about themselves
Yeah.
by what do they want to do, and yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think, and it'd be cool to like track that arc, that story arc going forward as well, right?
Exactly, and
All that comes with
and
it.
there have also been multiple cases. One of them being my teammate, so we've been partnering with CEW a lot for multiple of our climate parties, right? So she attended one climate party which was happening at CW. She there connected with somebody and is now working at CW. Yeah. So
You should
bunch of
really,
those.
you should really like track all of them,
Yeah, we
consistently.
Again,
It's
yeah, I
like,
think I don't have a proper tracking mechanism in place so far, but I've been thinking we need to have one.
I know way back, Harvard had done this study on happiness. I think it's the longest running study on a cohort ever. Like it's been going on for some 75, 80 years now. So they had created a cohort on like one undergrad class, and then tracked them every year thereafter, after graduation, and then like 10-year mark, and 25-year mark, and 50-year mark, and then like saw their life trajectories. And they've actually mapped out who reached where, are they with happy spouses, are they happy with their
Nice.
careers, what philosophy did they choose in life, and that entire long arc of history has given
Right.
so much interesting data about
Yeah, that's
the
true.
choices people make, even from the same environment. That's why I just think, like, especially since you're building a community, I don't know how you'll do it necessarily, but it's a cool thing to just track stories going
Yeah,
forward.
that's true. Just needs a lot of effort and patience, I'd say.
I know, maybe like check in once a year with everyone who
Yeah,
comes
that's
through
true.
and say, where are you now? What do you believe in? Are you happy? Are you less anxious?
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Let me actually write that out. I'll think about it.
Another thing you talked about is making not just climate action accessible, fun, easily digestible and fun. And I know at your events you really focus on doing that, right? Make it palatable, de-jargonize, don't use fancy terms, games, do creative storytelling. So, what are some of these practices you brought into your events to make people just feel like this is fun to learn?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is when we get, so say for example, we do, every climate party has three components. One is a learning session, the second is the cross pollination of ideas, letting people be. And a lot of time we plan their serendipities by matching them in advance based on their interests. And then third is the games, right? And then there's another type of climate parties that we do which are more experience based, right, where we'll take them to specific places to really show them what a niche within climate looks like, be it a material recovery facility or showing them what sustainable architecture looks like, right? I'll probably come to that in a bit. But when, if it's a standard climate party which has these three aspects which I was talking about, the first is really making sure that we pick speakers or knowledge sharers, as we call them, to be coming with very diverse perspectives on the same topic. And it's not people, from the same, essentially the same niche, right? So there you'll actually end up seeing a lot of speakers which you will not see in the main institutional events. So that's one. So that's where, we spend a lot of time in the curation. Second is when we do a briefing with the speakers, it's a non-negotiable with them that they cannot use any jargons. They have to be because look, when you have such a diverse crowd, you have to kind of figure out the right balance where people either are not thrown off with very technical stuff, or people don't feel the worth of them being there saying, "Hey, mujhe to already, I already know this," right? So again, we've learned over time, figured that out, and then it's about, second point being no jargons. So we seldom use presentations. We use presentations only if a speaker really insists on using it. Third is making it not too long, because as we see in most events, you see most people in the audience sleeping. We don't want to do that, right? So we figured out our sweet spots over multiple iterations, right? So this one is on the side of, curating that or designing that learning session. There's a bunch of interactive activities we'll do. We'll do a bunch of quizzes to just kind of get people to stay up, or just make sure that they're feeling it, right? They're interested. Second is the designing the cross pollination, right? So I think the one that you did, we did create corners based on interest, but it was just so many people that kind of got lost. But the idea was really to help people figure out the people they'd want to talk to, because otherwise it gets really difficult, right? So if you've One is doing a pre-matching where people know whom they'll be meeting so that they go back with at least 2 to 3 meaningful conversations. And second is creating corners based on interests within climate so that people are more likely to find somebody they want to talk to, right? And then the third is games. So we've partnered with a lot of game developers from across the world, give people an experience they've never had before, because climate games are not something which is, as easily available as your Dungeons and Dragons or again the famous board games, right, which a lot of gaming communities play. So the first one we partnered with was actually a bunch of Swedish researchers who have developed a game called Climate Call. They wanted to try with us. They shipped us a whole bunch, and we've been playing Climate Call. That's been our longest running game in the Climate Party so far, because it is super easy to understand and leaves people with a lot of food for thought. And it's very gets done with very quickly. And like they got such an amazing response that they actually built an India version for us. So, and similarly, we've played a lot of strategy board games which has lasted like 2 hours. So, in some climate parties, we've actually had to dedicate a 2 hours slot just for the game and ask people to come a little in advance, right? What this also does is gives all these game developers a good testing ground, and I'm seeing over time there are so many people within India working on so many different types of games now. That kind of gives us a good shuffle.
Wow.
And then also gives the game developers access to a platform where they can test out stuff.
I actually find this one of the most interesting parts of your entire model too, because you're bringing interactive communication in a fun way to otherwise seemingly complex subjects, right? Like you can explain anything: waste, renewable energy, nuclear fission, carbon credits, whatever you want, through the medium of a game. It makes it far more palatable, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is the need of the hour, because unfortunately we are still stuck in a very jargonized, technically heavy form of storytelling that doesn't connect with most people. And I truly believe, like, if we have to make climate action count, we have to make it mainstream. We have to make everybody be able to play their part, right? So why is this not more deeply embedded into our climate ecosystem? I mean, you're bringing these game designers and communicating these subjects. You're giving them a place to also test their game model. But if I were to take a survey amongst like 100 different climate company founders, no one would have thought about using games to communicate what they do with a larger market.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's a missing gap. Like, it's such a great tool. Do you feel like that's going to be a medium of communicating this in a far more mainstream, mass adoption way?
I don't know about mainstream yet, but at least I see some people picking it up, because we've had queries from a bunch of corporates. I'll give you an example. A CSO really wanting to change the mindset of people to help them understand why, right? And they need to collect data from so many teams. Now they don't get data on time, they don't get it in the way they want. For them, it's actually a culture shift that they want to see. And they had approached us to figure out how can they develop a mechanism to get people to care. And because this was supposed to be done in addition to their working hours, and how do you make them show up for something like this? How do we make this fun such that in the process they'll end up learning something, right? When it comes to actually making work fun, I think that traditional thinking doesn't give this particular thought enough space for it to even come to you. Plus I'd say it's also quite novel, right? So a bunch of I think leadership folks will have to test it out to then say, oh, it's probably worked, you should do it too. It's super slow at the moment, and as we were talking, these things take time to really show effect. So to really have that long-term mindset, it's only a few people who actually have it. And storytelling anyway, I think as we were previously talking, it's incredibly hard. Especially if it involves people changing behaviors. It's incredibly hard, right?
I think behavior change is the hardest thing to do, but it's the root. Like, if you can make that happen, everything else that comes with the behavior change then spirals and dominoes into real impact, right?
And honestly, when I had begun, I used to always think, how could we make behavior change happen while also making money out of it, right? Again, why I say that is, when I got into climate, I was very sure that whatever I do has to be for profit. Again, this stems from the idea of possibly creating an example for the world that doing good and making money can go hand in hand. They're not like
Conscious
mutually exclusive.
capitalism for good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm of the same philosophy. It is hard though. Like, making money overall is hard. Making money in climate is hard, but it has to be done in tandem, because we're doing climate action just for charity and like no revenue models. You're not gonna be around for too long.
And I feel some things have kind of ruined. Like, I say this because, we do events, and most people who do traditional events are funded by someone, right? And that's why they are free. So I've gotten so many questions. Why do you charge?
Yeah.
And then, I'm like, if only I could tell you the amount of effort that goes on to really get you what you see and why you keep coming back, else you wouldn't come back.
Yeah. Plus, psychologically, also people only respect what they have paid for. You get
I
something for
agree.
free, you don't really treat it the same, right? You don't.
Agreed.
Yeah. You attach value to what you've paid for. So I think that's great. And so, if I have to really think about what you've built at the Climate Party in 2 years now, I think first you've built a great community for people to discover who else is in the space, right? And find like-minded people, make friends, find colleagues, investors, etc. The second one is, I think you've built a distribution system, distribution and communication system for climate solutions, right? That otherwise would find it very hard to do that communication to new sets of stakeholders. And I think that is really, really cool. I really feel like most companies struggle with de-jargonized, effective communication. Like, you should be able to explain battery technology to a 5-year-old. Right?
True.
Why don't we do that?
Like, if you see, the very root of capitalism is making simple things complex so that you can sell a solution, right?
Someone needs to be able to buy that also, right? Like, if they don't
No, no,
understand,
no.
you don't know
But
how they're going to buy it.
if you really think about it, like, there are so many simple things like that you can just do. Why do we have so many habit formation apps pushing you notifications, a smart bottle to remind you to drink water? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Right?
Overcomplicated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think simpler is always better, and simpler language, simpler communication better.
And simpler is harder, to be honest, because look, the way I feel we're wired is to give more value to complex things, because you feel that you've applied your brain to deconstruct it, whereas something which is super simple and obvious, you would be like, "Acha, haan, this is obvious." But again, making things obvious and simple is incredibly hard.
Is the toughest, yeah. Were you ever a fan, or are you a fan of Richard Feynman?
I do have a book of his that I am supposed to read. I
Which
think
one?
six
Surely
of
you're
his.
joking, Mr. Feynman?
Sorry?
Which one is it? Surely you're joking?
So I think this was about six of his lessons, six of his physics lessons or something. Again, super simple way.
He actually, I think, explained this so well way back, and I think it should be the way of the world. Like, explain everything like you're telling a 5-year-old,
Right.
right? And if you can't actually simplify it and explain it to a 5-year-old, don't
You've
do it.
not understood it
You've
yourself.
not understood it yourself, and you're just wasting other people's time and your own time. You have to be able to go down to that first principle and explain it really, really
Then
quickly.
what I felt is, if you understand well, and if you have to make anybody else understand, use a good analogy. I love analogies, right? And I'm always on the lookout for good analogies. I tried to use a lot of them while writing anti-climatic, so because largely it was for people who were not interested in climate, but I wanted to like nudge them to read. So that's why I kind of ended up using
Yeah.
analogies memes there. All of my anticlimactic pieces have explained like I'm a memer. So the concept
Yeah.
was like picked up from ELI 5 from Reddit.
No, I think people do digest. I say like we have a post-it, attention span now. If it's not on a post-it, we can't digest it, right? Our brains are wired to understand in the form of memes and like two
Yeah.
second reels, and it's not good. Like our brains have gone
Oh
to
yeah,
rot.
yeah, definitely not.
But that's just the reality of it, right? So in that 2 second attention span, how do you explain nuclear fusion? Yeah. But I think that's where um, that is the missing piece, in my opinion, the climate party is solving. And I think that combined with behavior change is really, really a powerful cocktail. Uh, we need to make climate action more mainstream. We need to make people feel like they have choices. And they can work in the space. They can buy solutions in the space.
At times I just also, there's one fear I always carry that, while there are more and more people coming in this space, but at times this still feels like an echo chamber, right? Where when you look at the, breadth of India, right? We're this tiny so far.
Yeah, right,
So,
right. Very small drop in the ocean.
yeah.
So going forward from here, you've built for 2 years now. What is your big hope for Climate Party and for climate action? What's your
Sorry.
hope, and what's the hope you have, and what is the help you need to get there, to make that vision a reality?
So I think for when I think of future of the climate party, right? Since as we were speaking, it's honestly been not too long. It's just been, as you said, 1.5 to 2 years so far. And things take time to shape up, especially in this space. And when we're talking of network effects to show, it takes even more, right? So I actually was thinking a few days ago about Substack, right? Both of us write Substack, both of us consume Substack. I think they've been around for about 6-7 years, but only now have people really started getting on that platform because the discovery has become much easier. A lot of people who've been writing for long kind of get a lot more readership now, right? So it takes time, and this is after it being a tech platform. We're not tech platform. We're like humans first platform. It will take even longer, right? I think continuing to do what we're doing, and of course learning on the way, making it better, but the idea is to get more and more people involved in the cities we are. And since India is huge, we need to go to a lot more cities, a lot more tier 2 cities now, because we're seeing some action brewing up there as well. So yeah, the journey will continue, and we'll bring in more people from more geographies. And when you talk about hope for the future, I think there's one thing I always now tell people: all of us collectively need to start questioning things that happen around us. And why I say this is, for any change or action to happen, the first step is awareness. And that awareness only comes in when you start questioning the status quo. If you're seeing, something being dug up around you, ask, or at least show some curiosity to figure out it kyun hai, right? And because for me, I've seen, after I've come in this space, I've been able to peel certain layers, get to the depths of certain things, discover some harsh realities, some good ones, and that's, I think, in process, it's also continuing to shape my worldview, change my worldview. A lot of things I used to believe 2 years back, I don't believe in them anymore. And I'm sure this is a work in progress. But at the very basis of it is just staying curious. And I think what is happening now, since we're in the age of information abundance, which mostly is noise, a lot of us forget to do that. We just take things as they're coming, and stay curious and question things.
Stay curious. That's a lovely note to end on. I think you are enabling curiosity for people coming into the community. Really appreciate what you do with the Climate Party, and we're rooting for you.
Thank you.
I'm here to help any way we can. Sayesha, please keep carrying on, and hope that 1,000-member community turns into millions of people, and I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Especially not like going beyond just metro cities in India, going into tier 2, tier 3. That'll be real climate action mainstream,
Yeah, that is true. I
right?
agree.
Rooting for that to happen. Lovely
Thank
conversation
you.
with you today. Thank you for being with us on this.
Thank you for having me. This was lovely.